All right, folks, good morning. All right, apologize. It must have been a mistake. I thought I'd already scheduled this broadcast yesterday, but apparently not. So uh, if anyone misses it, this is the replay. All right, so let's get started. So for today, Wednesday the 15th, we've got the following. We had a bunch of economic data that came out. Core CPI came out as expected. Core retail sales came in as expected. CPI month over month actually came in softer than expected, which is interesting because PPI came in higher than expected yesterday, a lot higher, but CPI actually came in lower. And CPI year over year came in as expected, 3.4%. The Empire State Manufacturing Index came in worse than expected, and retail sales month over month came in worse than expected as well. So this is good news for the markets because everybody was worried if the CPI data was going to come out stronger than expected. In other words, if inflation numbers would come out higher, but instead we get the opposite, that they came out weaker than expected. So I'll go over NASDAQ in just a second. So at 10 o'clock, we have two minor reports, business inventories and the NAHB Housing Market Index, both of those at 10 o'clock. Mortgage delinquencies all day, no specific time. At 3:20 p.m., we'll have FOMC member Bauman speaking. And after that, at market close, we'll have TIC long-term purchases, but it doesn't matter since the markets will be closed at that time. So that's all we got. So that being said, let's take a look at the NASDAQ, the QQQ ETF, see where things are at. So as you can see, the QQQ ETF is currently up strongly. As I mentioned, that this news from this morning is actually very good. At least I think the concern now is not whether or not the Fed is going to lower interest rates. I believe the markets are actually worried if the Fed might actually raise them because if inflation keeps going up, then that would have to the FOMC would have to eventually raise rates. So with inflation numbers coming in as expected, not better than expected, but as expected, then that's actually very good news. So we see a spike here in the market. So let's also point out that yesterday we were mildly bullish. After Powell spoke, he did say that he's basically saying that he said yesterday that inflation is moderating slower than he would have expected, meaning that the rate of inflation is cooling off slower than he expected. It's taking longer than expected. And he said that they're going to have to hold interest rates steady as a result. Now, that's the first time that I can think of so far that they've made a statement that makes it seem pretty clear that they're not expecting to be able to lower interest rates. The markets did not seem to be that affected because Powell also said that he's not that concerned about the uptick in inflation. He doesn't think it's that big of a deal. So maybe he was right. Either way. So we saw an uptick in inflation with respect to producer prices, but not on the consumer side. But I have to expect that if producer prices went up, this last report, I have to expect that it's not being reflected yet in the CPI data. So just as a warning, there's a good chance that when we look at our next CPI data, it's going to reflect a increase in consumer prices, reflecting the increase that the producers are saying that they have. All right. Anyway, that's just a more complicated explanation. So let's take a look at what was moving yesterday, which was not a lot. So yesterday was not a very active day since Powell was speaking. So here's what we did have that played out okay. Meta was able to move up. We couldn't do anything until it was past 468.73. Once it got past there, it did go about 2/3 of the way to target number two to the upside, but not the best opportunity. Much better, vastly better was Qualcomm, QCOM, was able to reach target number two to the upside of 188.20. NVIDIA was able to reach target number one to the upside of 916.54, then topped out there. Tesla was able to reach target number one to the upside of 177.53, then got 2/3 of the way to target number two to the upside, topping out at 179.49. Next up, we have Affirm, which was able to reach target number one to the upside of 33.83, and then topped out about 50% of the way to target number two at 34.31. And then lastly, we have Robinhood, HOOD, which was able to reach target number two to the upside of 18.63 a share. All right, so I have a lot of stocks for the pre-market that are moving, so let me just rocket through them. First up, we're going to look at BCAN. Okay, that's currently up 10%, 1.4 million shares, and it's at least $1 per share. Meets all the qualifications, so that will be added to the pre-market radar. BCAN. Next up is CTNT, which is presently down 15.62% on 1.3 million shares, and it's at least $1 per share. So we'll add that to the pre-market radar. DLPN is currently up 20.89% on 1.6 million shares, and it's at least $1 per share. This is up due to earnings, so therefore this will be added to our pre-market radar. DLPN. Next up, we have Edible, which is presently up 75% off of earnings, 6.8 million shares, and it's at least $1 per share. So we'll add EDBL to the pre-market watch list. Next up, we have HOLO, which is presently down 13.31% on 2.9 million shares. It's at least $1 per share. So we'll add HOLO to the pre-market radar as well. Next up, we have KVUE. Oh, sorry, I said NYSE stock. Never mind. Next up, we have LCID, Lucid, which is presently up 2.56%, so not enough of a rise. So we'll have to skip that one. Next up, we have Plug Power, which was up big yesterday. Presently, it's up 6%, 4.5 million shares, and it's at least $1 per share. Still qualifies for the list for today, so we'll add Plug Power to the pre-market radar. Next up, let's take a look at SoFi. Currently up only 2%, so not up enough, so we'll skip that one. Next, we'll check out SoundHound. That's presently up only 3.2%, so not enough on that one either, so we'll skip it. Next up is SPWR, presently down about 2%. I don't think, no, sorry, yeah. Currently down 21%, thank you, on 2.6 million shares, and it's at least $1 per share, so we'll add SPWR to the pre-market radar as well. And let's see, I see Tesla on the list, but it's not up enough, so we'll have to skip that one. Let's see, and CLSK just showed up, I think. That's currently at 5.27%, so not up enough, but it's on our regular list of stocks that we watch, so we'll take a look at that later. All right, so I see, Jim, you've mentioned all the stocks I already mentioned, so if you folks see any other stocks that meet our 4 criteria other than the ones that we've already mentioned, let me know in the chat. Here is a list of the stocks I already mentioned. So we're looking for a NASDAQ listed stock, only NASDAQ, that is trading up or down at least 6%, positive or negative. Um, we need a stock that is trading at least 1 million shares of pre-market volume, and also has at least $1 per share. So if you see any NASDAQ listed stocks that are currently in the pre-market up or down at least 6%, have achieved at least 1 million shares of pre-market volume, and are presently priced at least $1 per share, other than the ones we've already mentioned, let me know in the chat. All right. So I guess that's it. All right, folks, we'll have to wrap up for today. Please be sure to like the video. I see we have 8 likes, more than 8 people watching. Please be sure to hit that like button, as well as subscribing to the channel. That way you get notifications in case I forget to post the link to the live broadcast, for example. And if anyone's watching this on a replay, please be sure to check out fundertrading.com, our website. There is a link in the description of this video. For everyone's part of the coaching program, I'll see you there in about 23 minutes. Otherwise, everyone have a great trading session. I'll see you for tomorrow's pre-market pulse. Take care.